So, hi guys,
Hi
welcome back to our channel, and today we are talking about pilot pay. This is really sought after question, how much pilots earn. And if you want to see more videos from our channel, please remember to subscribe, and if you like the video, please hit the thumbs up. And actually, we are going to make this into series. So first of all, we are going to explain you a little bit about the pilot pay and how to compare it, and in the videos in the future we are going to talk about pilot pay in different areas in the country.
Excellent. So what do you think? Well, you have been researching pilot pay. What has made it difficult?
So many things. So what should you consider when you're actually comparing pilot pay, and why it's not a straightforward answer? The first thing you should consider when you're comparing pilot pay is actually the cost of living in that country where you're getting your salary from. This is of course because usually the salaries are reflecting of the cost of living in that country where your job is. And on top of that, you should be also thinking about taxes, because taxes are a little bit different in different countries. So how much you have in your hand in the end of the day might be affected quite many things: taxes, the cost of living, and so on. So okay, we have now talked about cost of living and the taxes. What else?
Well, it's also when you talk about pilot pay, there's different types of pilots. I mean, most people know captain, first officer, but as a captain, you can, for instance, be one that can do training in a simulator or in the airplane, and usually that attracts a training add-on, so you can actually get paid a little bit more if you do like training roles. So of course, in a company, it depends on what kind of role you have and how many years you have been in the company. That also usually reflects your pay. So it's very hard to just say, working for this airline, you get this pay, because there's so many variables that determines your pay.
And I think one thing that also affects here in Europe is that actually you also have second officers.
Yeah.
So you have second officer pay, you have first officer pay, so you cannot actually compare those two.
Yeah, I mean,
way.
you would, as a group, you would
Yeah.
be called a co-pilot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there can be different types of co-pilots. If you
Yeah.
fly the long routes, maybe you can even, as a co-pilot, you can get a check where you can sort of be what's called relief captain, and that usually also triggers a little bit of an extra if you have that qualification.
Now we have cleared up what kind of pilot you are, so you should be usually comparing captain to captain, first officer to first officer. But on top of that, the type and the size of the plane also affects your salary.
Yeah, I mean, really basic. I think normally a jet plane or a pilot working on board a jet gets paid more than a pilot working on board a propeller plane. I mean, roughly speaking. But also it tends to be the case that the bigger the plane, the bigger the pay.
Yeah.
Is it fair? Not necessarily, but that's just how it is. If you are flying a 747, you usually get paid more than if you fly a 737, even with the same company.
So on top of that, so you need to consider what type of plane you're flying when you compare the salaries. And this is something that's a little bit different in different countries. For example, in EU and US, quite drastically, is the basic pay and the production pay.
Yeah. So the sum of your pilot pay is, as Kuka says, consisting of your basic, that's what you get regardless of whether you fly. Yeah. But when you are working, you also get what's called production pay.
Yeah.
And especially in the US, they have quite a high hourly rate for pilots.
Yeah.
And of course, that affects, well, the calculations, how many hours are you going to fly per year? And that can be quite difficult to predict. So in the Europe region, we usually have quite a high amount that is guaranteed. So the basic pay is high, and the production pay is lower than, particularly if you compare it to the US.
So yeah, it's really hard to compare the salaries, for example, in US and then compare it to Europe salaries, because how the salary is constructed is so different.
Yeah.
And this go across the globe. no
Yeah.
matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the next thing, which is what a lot of people don't even consider, is maybe what we can call the extras. So the extras could be like pension. It can be like if you have insurances that comes with employment. In some regions, especially the Middle East and the Far East, they also pay housing allowances, school allowances. You might have support to get like a plane ticket home, so for maybe commuting. And that's all, you could say that's part of the salary, but it's just really difficult to compare than when you one place you're getting paid a house, and somewhere else you have to pay for the house out of your salary.
Yeah, well, you can think about it like in this way, that maybe your basic pay is a little bit less, but then you get all the extras on top of it. So actually you might have more in your hand in the end of the day, although in some other places your basic pay and your salary is much higher, but when you pay taxes and your housing and all the everything else, you actually might have a little bit less.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that you also need to consider when you're comparing the pilot salaries is the pay scales, because in some companies it's 1 to 5 years, and some companies is 5 to 20 years.
Yeah, so the pay scales are usually based on your seniority with the company. So if you imagine that you start in the company 1st of August, so every time you come to 1st of August, you go one step up, regardless of what you have done that year. Just because you have been loyal to the company and you have one more year of seniority, you go one step up. And usually in the low cost regime, then there's few steps. So I'd say in the low cost airlines, there's not a big gap between what pilots are making, but there can be a really big difference in the, like say, the legacy companies, the really big companies, the national companies, because there might be 20 steps on the pay scale, and be on top compared to be on the bottom. As I say, huge difference.
Yeah, but do you know what? We have been now gathering an Excel with pilot pays around the world, and this is something what we're going to share with you in the future videos. So please stay tuned and remember to subscribe so you can be notified when we are going to release those information. And if you are a pilot and you want to contribute on our Excel sheets, you're welcome to contact us at through the askapilot.net, or you can send us an email at contact@askapilot.net.
Absolutely. Until next time, see you.
Bye.
Bye.